Alright guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS video. This week we've got the Farmers Insurance Open, and this field is absolutely loaded. It should be a pretty fun week, and finally we get a yellow week. And for those of you that don't know, yellow is just a confidence rating that I like to use. We got green, yellow, and red. Obviously red, low confidence, you shouldn't be playing as much. Yellow means you can kind of play a little bit, and then green obviously just means you're going to go out and attack it aggressively. So we finally get a yellow week, and I'm pretty excited about this one. Obviously it's loaded on the top end. Middle section is a little weak, and then we have some okay value plays as well. So you can do the studs and duds approach, but also the fair and balanced approach is going to be a great approach, especially in cash. Just a quick breakdown of today's video. Going to be going over last week's recap as always. Going to get into the course overview. Then we're going to get into the plays at each pricing tier. So let's get into the last week's recap. All right, so here's last week's recap. Russell Knox, Alex Noren did fine for us as core plays. Russell Knox was pretty much just an easy play. We knew he was going to make the cut. Nick Taylor at his price point was just too hard to pass up. It sucked that he went +2 on Saturday to miss the cut. That really hurt, not going to lie, especially because he got a birdie. And then he bogeyed. He hit one in the water on like the 17th hole, and then he ended up missing the cut. What even hurt more about that is Vaughn Taylor ended up making the cut, which really shifted the whole slate. So, if you didn't cash and you had 6 for 6 across the cut line and you're cheering for Vaughn Taylor to make the cut, that was probably the wrong move. Him and Matthew Wolff were extremely high owned. That really shocked me. I get the plays. I did not get the ownership there. End up working out for people, but the reason why I didn't really get those plays is because there's better plays right around their price points. Like Scotty Scheffler, he was right around Matthew Wolff's price point. You have people like Alex Noren right around there as well. And then going a little bit lower for the Vaughn Taylor play, you have people like Harris English, Russell Knox, Daniel Berger, even Andrew Putnam. I would have been, having him over him, Brian Harmon as well. So it's just kind of interesting that, there's high ownerships on those two players, but, it kind of sums up this whole season. It seems like these really high owned players are either right around the cut line or missing the cut. Turned out, solid for those people that played him, but, overall, I'm really happy with that player pool last week. It did suck that Nick Taylor choked at the end, but really solid player pool last week, and 3 straight weeks of having solid player pool. So it looks like we're finally getting the proper stats, of course, history and recent form that we finally want, which equates to a solid player pool and correlates, to profitable weeks. And speaking of that, this was the cash lineup that we had last week. Obviously, Nick Taylor missed the cut. This lineup was, I don't know if it was unlucky that Nick Taylor choked and missed the cut, or if it was lucky to cash. It kind of goes hand in hand. Cash because we had Scotty Scheffler in there, who, obviously had a top 5 finish, got that bonus in there, had some scorers in there as well. Harris English really stepped up for us to make the cut. That was real nice. But overall, it's kind of a mixed week. Had a ton of 5 out of 6 lineups just because of Nick Taylor. Had a few 6 for 6. Those ones did fine, but it really hurt. The last 3 weeks, I've had a lineup in position, either in first or right around first to win, and it hasn't panned out. So hopefully eventually it'll pan out. The last 2 weeks, I do think I should have maybe max entered. Might be doing that coming up here. Kind of just depends on the week. I definitely think there has been some lineups that I've left out there that I could have done well. Obviously the player pool here was pretty solid. Just think if I did 150 max enter, would have had some, contending lineups there. But let's get into the course overview for this week. It's going to be a pretty fun event. Let's get into it. All right, so we got the course overview here, and as always, just like to break it down and show you who is, the best plays or has the best course history. So current form, obviously this field's loaded. We could go deeper than that list that's presented right there. I won't, but obviously like Ryan Palmer has been a stud recently. Russell Knox has been a stud recently. Grillo, Tringale have all been playing well as well. So those are all going to be fine plays for you. The stats that we're going to be looking at for this event are going to be total driving, ball striking as always. Put a little bit more emphasis on total driving this week. Strokes gained tee degree is also going to be key. Typically you see players have success that have long drives. They're driving distance players. So we do want to target those guys who are a little bit longer off the tee, but we don't want to get overboard with it. And then I'm also going to be looking at that birdie to bogey ratio, just because I think that'll correlate to being able to predict which players are going to make the cut. The cut line should be around -3 or so. So that's kind of what we're going to be targeting. That's why I'm going to be using that stat this week. All right, let's get into the picks for this week. So like I said, the high tier is absolutely loaded, and we'll break it down here for you guys. So we'll touch on it here. So we got Rory, who's just been dominating so far this season. Obviously 2 top 5 finishes, but same thing for Jon Rahm, a top 10 and a second overall finish. Same thing for Tiger Woods here, 4 and a first finish, and they all have great course history. So I'm fine with you guys playing any of those 3. There's not too much analysis to that. Justin Rose, though, he might be a sneakier play. He's had 3 straight top 10 finishes at this course. Obviously, he's in some fine form as well. I don't mind that play. Then we got Scotty Scheffler here, who he had a top 25 finish last year, but 2 missed cuts prior to that. Obviously, he's been playing some great golf, though, here. 4 straight top 10 finishes. And if you were just looking at the core stats for this week, he grades out as one of the better plays this week as well. So the top end's absolutely loaded. I mean, we can continue on to Hideki here. Hideki's been in some great form as well, and he's priced at under 10K. I mean, this is insane that we're getting that much value at under 10K, and he's at a 3rd, 12th, and 33rd finish. Obviously, that's ascending, and he's a really solid stat fit as well. But my favorite play in this price range is going to be Gary Woodland, and I think if he was the highest price player, I'd still pay for him, and I'll explain why. 9th, 12th, 20th, and 18th overall finish here at this event, and then honestly, he's just been tearing it up this year. 4 straight top 7 finishes or better. If you add in his 55th finish earlier in the year, he's 15th. He has an average finish of 15th overall in the season, and he grades out as his 7th best stat fit this week. He's just checking absolutely all the boxes, and hopefully he's not going to be the chalky disappointment this week, but he's just a phenomenal play this week. Same could be said for Tony Finau, though, who does have great course history, top 20. Or 4 straight top 20 finishes, and he's kind of just a poor man's version of Gary Woodland. Obviously, he's not in as good a form. And then we got Sanjay M here, priced at 9.1K. I think we're paying for Sanjay. We're just paying for a made cut here at this price point. Don't mind it. In his first time out here at this event, he had a 52nd finish. He's also the 14th best stat fit according to my model this week. So that high tier is absolutely loaded this week. And you should be kind of mixing and matching a little bit there with the high tier, especially in GPPs. If you're trying to get, the best line, if you're trying to take down GPP, you're just going to have to mix and match that a little bit and then, play some of the value plays that we'll touch on later on in this video. All right, so getting to the mid tier, I don't like it as much. So I'll start off with Cam Smith, just because he's the most interesting play. So he's the top 10 stat fit this week. He has a 9th, a 20th, and a 33rd finish, and then a missed cut. So that's been ascending as well, which we do like to see. The only problem with Cam Smith this week is that he won. And we never know how a player is going to respond when they won in their last event. It's just, mentally they're just not in it as much. Maybe they're doing a little bit more interview time, with the media and stuff. I don't know what it is exactly, but, typically we don't see the players go out and play as well. But if he had not won in the previous event, I'd probably just be locking him in. He'd probably be a core play. I'm not sure we can go that route just because of that weird factor that he won previously. So I do still like him as a play. I will have a ton of him. Brent Snedeker, I don't love this play, but it does seem like a solid price point for him for a guy that should go out and make the cut. If you played someone like Vaughn Taylor last week, this is kind of the similar play for him for Snedeker this week. Kyle Morikawa pretty much seems like we're locking in a cut. 6 straight made cuts on this season, 16 in his career. He hasn't missed a cut so far. He's a fine stat fit as well, nothing great. And then Ryan Palmer here. I just love this price point for Ryan Palmer. Obviously, he's been in some great form recently, pretty much this whole season. Then overall, he's a top 10 stat fit according to my model this week. The only stat that he's not T35 or better in is total putting. He ranks 99th in that, but still, we're not really looking at total putting too much. Obviously, the players that have won had been solid putters, but overall, I'm not too worried about that for a stat to make the cut. And then just his course history, he's at a 13th and a 2nd overall finish in his last 2 starts in the last 4 years. So I do like Ryan Palmer quite a bit this week. Let's move on to the low exposure plays here. So the low tier is fine. I'm not going to touch on all the plays though. Lanto Griffin is going to be the first play that I do touch on. Top 10 stat fit this week. He had a 12th overall finish here in his first time playing this event. That was 2 years ago. And he's just been in some solid form recently. If you take away that one miscut at the RSM Classic where he went with a 74 and then followed up with a 65, he's just been an absolute stud this year. So the recent form isn't exactly there. It's not checking all the boxes exactly because he does have that one miscut mixed in there. And if he hadn't made that cut, I'd probably have him as a core play this week. But still, tough to deny. Lanto Griffin, almost checking all the boxes. And, you know, if you take away that one miscut, he would be checking all the boxes. Speaking of checking all the boxes, it's Russell Knox. Once again, I bet most of you guys would have guessed that I was playing him this week. One of my overall strategies in PGA DFS is, you know, run your players into the ground. You know, why fix what isn't broken? That's what Russell Knox pretty much is. 2 straight make cuts at this course, a 43rd and a 29th finish. You know, he's a fine stat fit, top 25 in the field. Recent form's been pretty solid. I think with Russell Knox this week, if you're playing him, you're pretty much just logging in a T30 or better finish. And, you know, like I said, if I'm playing him, I'm just playing him mostly because he checks all the boxes, but also because you just kind of run your plays into the ground in PGA DFS. And that's what we're going to do with Knox. You know, there's some GPP plays there like Bubba Watson, Keegan, Sebastian Munoz. Don't mind those plays at all. Harris English is definitely going to be more of a GPP play this week as well, but he is a top 10 stat fit this week. His course history is a miscut last year and then an 8th, 14th, and 31st finished. His recent form has been spotty. That 74 on the last round really killed his round. Killed some of my GPP lineups as well, but not a horrible play at that price point. Don't mind it. Cameron Tringale, he's had 2 made cuts and 2 missed cuts at this course in the last 4 years. He's not the best stat fit, but he has been making a ton of cuts recently, so I don't hate this play. Tringale has made 7 straight cuts in a row. The price point's fine for a guy that you're just trying to hope makes the cut. Let's get into the value tier because it's a little bit better, but there's a lot more risk associated with it. A little bit more upside, though, I think, for some of the plays. And I bet most of you guys can already name some of them as well because they're repeats of previous weeks. And I don't get what DraftKings has been doing with a couple of these guys here. Scott Stallings is a fine play. 2 made cuts, 2 missed cuts at this event. Obviously, he's in some pretty decent form. You know, making 6 out of 8 cuts this year. It's pretty solid for a value play. But let's touch on the other value plays here. So we'll start off with Maverick McNeely here. So 29th finish here 2 years ago. That's his only course experience at this event. He's not the best stat fit, but he has made 7 straight cuts in a row. For a value play, you know, we'll definitely take that any day of the week. But going a little bit lower, we got Matthew Naismith, who top 25 stat fit. I just don't get the price point, to be honest with you guys. He's made 5 straight cuts in a row. Just a really solid stat fit. You know, for a GPP play, if you're trying to do studs and duds approach, if he gets a top 20 finish this week, I think that's really going to help you. And he has shown that upside recently, especially last week. And then DJ Trahan, really solid stat fit once again this week. Been solid this whole year. And it's not like people have found out about it. You know, people have been listening. They found out about Trahan. They know he's going to be a solid play this week. I think after this week, he'll be priced about $7K if he goes out and has a solid week, if he makes another cut. So this might be our last week to fully take advantage of it. And then John Huh, I don't mind this play. I don't love it. 3 straight made cuts in a row. That's what we do like to see. And he has made 4 straight cuts at this event, a 25th, a 45th, a 76th, and then an 8th finish. So, you know, at that price point for a guy that's checking 2 boxes, not horrible. You know, it's more of a punt play, especially if you're trying to do the studs and duds approach. But that's all I have for you guys this week. I do think the strategy in cash we can finally do it, which should be your weekly strategy in cash. It's the fair and balanced approach. You know, that 9K to, 7.5K range is pretty loaded this week, so we can definitely attack via that way. And then we can do studs and duds approach and GPPs, factoring in the risk a little bit more. But this should be a good week.
Let's do this.